Yes. Okay. Now it's recording. So, hi, Jacklyn. I'm so excited to be together, especially on your birthday eve.
Yes.
Thank you for joining me and for sharing more of your story with Leiamoon and our community here. We are all about kind of diving deep into the center of ourselves, the center of all creation, really the womb, and taking the best care of this part of our body, which to many feels like this new concept, but really it's such an ancient concept. And I think so many are feeling that deep rooted desire to head back that way. So I'm really excited to have a conversation with you today about that, about Yoni steaming, about your personal journey of transformation and what it is that you offer now. So if you want to start out just by like introducing yourself and what your path has looked like.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jessica, for having me a part of this beautiful podcast and for your wonderful gift that I can't wait to explain of your creation and how it's supported me on my journey this far in just the last couple months. So thank you. My name is Master Jacklyn Nicolle, and I'm known as a drum medicine facilitator, which is pretty much spiritual attunements. I help people to open their heart and help to regulate their nervous system, by getting them grounded with Pachamama, which is Mother Earth, and her healing energy to come up and connect to source, but really meet at the heart space. So that's like my gift, my special gift that I do. And I play my drum, my frame drum, and I anoint people's third eyes and then bless them with my divinity soul spray elixir that's just filled with like aromas of earth, pretty much, water, living water, roses, coconut, vanilla, like whatever I feel guided to create, I do that. And so that helps people. And then on the flip side of my healing abilities, I'm also a businesswoman in a sense of entrepreneurship and an extensive background of pretty much being a high performance coach. So in different forms. So like I was in the beauty industry for over 20 years. I worked in the music industry. I was a Sailor Jerry Rum brand ambassador. And then in the music industry, I was a band manager and a booking agent, as well as a bartender back in the day. And I've explored life. I've worn many different hats on this journey. I was in the very toxic lifestyle, of what they would call the underground world, and really played with my demons and my traumas and all sorts of things. And then had a massive awakening in 2016 of April. And that's when my divine path of my divinity started to awaken and really birth who I am now in this new space. It's kind of like I had a new beginning. And with everything with the Yoni steaming, since I started my moon cycle when I was 13 and a half years old, I've always had heavy, painful periods, menstrual cycles. And I never knew why. Everyone's, oh, it just runs in the family. Oh, it runs in the family. Oh, all women have that. There's always some kind of excuse. And when I was 16, I went to like a Planned Parenthood and I started getting on birth control because my friends were going there because they were sexually active. I wasn't, but I was like, hey, I heard it works for your, menstrual cycle. Got on that. You gain weight. You have mood swings. And God knows what else it did to me at that time of like just really putting my body in a very acidic, toxic state, not knowing, right? And my womb just tended to like just get worse and worse and worse over the years. And even when I became sexually active, I always had challenges like with intimacy because it would hurt me. I'd have to be really, really like high off of like cannabis or other narcotic things that I did, or drunk to really like initially like enjoy it. And then when I was sober, it's not that I didn't have moments of bliss, but there were times where I was like, oh, like it was painful. And so in 2010, I pretty much diagnosed myself. However, I went to like a, what do you call them? The gynecologist.
Mhm.
And I was like, I have all these symptoms. I don't know what it is, but I have a feeling it's this. And I was like, it's endometriosis. And I never had to get like any surgeries or anything. They told me to do birth control, again, a lower one. So I did a different one. I had been on birth control for so many years, and it's crazy. And I started coming in touch with more holistic remedies. I came into alignment with this lady that when I used to run a beauty school, she was a client that came in to get her hair done, and she happened to be a nutritionist. And so she knew about that a little bit, but she wasn't super on the holistic side yet. But she was like, hey, no red meats, no caffeine, no chocolate, no alcohol, do all these things, and it will reduce your symptoms. So I did all that for a year. I stayed sober, I did all these things, but it was still there. And so I was like, there's something more to this. I was, off and on with my weight. I didn't understand. I felt like I was going crazy. And then I was also in a toxic relationship. So it was just a journey in itself. And so going back to 2016, when that happened, I had my awakening, and 2 months later I ended up being single. I was told to take a vow of celibacy. So abstaining, from sex for 5 years, staying sober for 5 years, and being single for 5 years. And when you have a broken heart, that seems so easy, because I was like in a space where like I was ready to heal, but I was like, ugh, guys, no, ugh, sex, no, like staying single, yes, that's fine. Like I like drinking, I was scared straight with my experience of why I went sober, so I didn't care. So at first it wasn't challenging, but once the 1.5 year mark started to take place, that's when the real challenges started to come in, and that's when I started to really become more conscientious on what womb healing was on a deeper level, on a spiritual level, and on an ancestral level too. That I wasn't just healing for me and my daughter, I was actually clearing things for my mother that I didn't have a relationship with, and all the women before her. And that's the stuff that blew my mind. I've always heard about Yoni seeming. I had never really fully experienced it. And so until about like almost 2 years ago. And when I did it, I did the old school way in like a pot, and whatever. And a sister of mine showed me, because she was specializing in that. I was like, oh, this is cool. I don't mind it. And then like I just saw the benefits of it as I was already doing all the womb work. And that was like the icing to the cake. You know what I mean? So, and then coming and aligning with you after some time of already doing Yoni seeming, this was like the big kahuna of like Yoni Sam. And I'm not just saying that because I'm having this conversation with you. Like I have really noticed a significant difference in just the like 2 months of using it. And I'm excited to share how and why.
Amazing. So yeah, I mean, that's such a, I mean, it's your unique story, but also so many of us have had that same relationship with birth control and undiagnosed symptoms, and just feeling the pain and knowing there wasn't going to be like a superficial fix for how to get back to self again. And it's layered with so many different, modalities that can help us uncover all those layers. And I think for you too, you're just saying like so many years of kind of like treating yourself, I guess, as unholy on some level, of when you're saying like having all these like toxic habits. I mean, I think we all kind of go through a phase of exploration, because we have at our disposal like all of these opportunities and ways to express ourselves and test all the boundaries of what all that means, and then know like when it doesn't feel right or good anymore. So I guess when you had that moment of like, okay, I need to like get myself back on track, do you remember like the first time you heard of Yoni steaming, or what were some of the other modalities that you were being exposed to heal your womb?
Yeah, no, that's a great question actually, because I was thinking of it as you're asking. So the funny thing is that spirituality, I guess I've always been, I mean, we're souls having a human experience, right? But I've always felt like I've always been spiritual. I've always been tuned in. I've always had some kind of like knowing of things, but I never was fully like present in it the way that I wish I could have been always, because I wasn't supported by my family. I was labeled as a weirdo, I was a black sheep, all this stuff, right? And so like during my journey, I actually was going against and away from the light. Like I was in so much trauma and so much deep like misunderstanding, like people misunderstood me, should I say. And so I was just like, well, I'm going to go do what the fuck I want. I don't care what people think. And so I was like a rebel without a cause. And at the same time, I've always had this warrior spirit and was very masculine, like tomboy growing up. And I always bullied the bullies. And with me and women, it was always a hard and challenging relationship in general, like, because I didn't have one with my mom. And then the women that came in after her through my dad and all these other people that I experienced, in my life, I just never saw eye to eye. And so I wasn't around healthy feminines. I wasn't around women that were like wanting to heal themselves. I was with women around women in a superficial realm where everyone wanted to like be Barbie and will take anything to look younger, and it was always toxic, and they would drink and then purge and project, and it was just crazy. So then when spirituality started to find me, like in a sense of like I started to do more like conscious research and whatnot, because the journey of trying my best to heal my endometriosis, I was doing a lot of research, and so I would read a lot of different things and come across like, oh, here's a holistic, right? And then you go down the rabbit holes, and so I don't remember exactly per se where it was, but I do know that when I came across Louise Hay. She has a book, You Can Heal Your Life. And she has this like appendix section where it states all your chakras and what's going on and an affirmation and why that's happening. And that blew my mind. That was in 2016. I came across my womb, and then it started saying like about my ovaries and all this stuff. And it was saying like trauma, that there was like female trauma, that there could have been sex related, that there could have been ancestral, like all these things. And I was like, what? And I started going on a rabbit, whole journey, and started learning about my heart and started learning about all these things. And as I was learning, it's like these people were coming into my realm to like guide me to like low aura cleansing sessions, or going to, an energy Reiki share and all this stuff. Right. And that started like more like throughout my journey, but like I started to be conscious of it in 2015 before my incident of going sober and all that stuff. And then I was still kind of fighting it, still drinking, still like in a toxic situation, but slowly coming out of it. Like I can see it. It just wasn't there yet. And then when that whole thing happened in 2016, it kind of like just, jumpstart me to go further. And so then this journey of like spirituality started to come in stronger, because I don't know, it was just time. Right. And so then I started to really tap into it, but it was more the witchy side. It was more like, light candle magic and, what they call witchcraft and elemental magic and all this stuff. And I was like herbs, and like, I love teas, and I was getting into that and tarot and all this stuff already a little bit before, but really diving in. And my family that was like, what is going on? They thought I was like this devil witch. Like they already thought I was dark, like when I was younger and doing all these things, and I was still a good person. It just was a punk rocker, rock and roll girl. And then all of a sudden now they're like, what the heck? Like you went on this other side of spirituality, and they're just like scared of me. And so during that process though, I kept on coming across the power of your sacral chakra. I kept on coming across, sacral energy, or I'm sorry, sacred sensuality, sexuality, the life force of the womb, the Yoni. Started coming across the term Yoni and the power that it holds, the Yoni portal, just all of these terms just on my journey. And I was like, what is that? Like, it feels familiar. Didn't know what it is. And then like the Virgin Mary has always followed me, like the symbolism. And I was like, it's because I was raised Catholic. And during my process of awakening, I realized the reason why I saw that, and I wasn't religious, but I would always be like, why is this always coming into my journey? I'm not like, I don't practice that stuff like my family does. I realized that she was representing me, and to come into my divinity, to come into my sacredness as a feminine, to be nurtured by the earth, to be nurtured by myself, all these different things. And so that journey went into like the rose lineage, went into like learning more about, the power of our, our Yoni, and like how it's so important to like, not let anyone just in. It's a sacred energy exchange, and like just really got into like tantra and stuff. And this was all within myself, right? And during that, Yoni steaming would come up, Yoni steaming and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I just had never experienced it, but I was learning so much. And I learned how to work with my moon map, my menstrual cycle, the blood, and like I've done everything. And so the Yoni steaming, like I said, had came just about 2 years ago in like 2020, and I got to finally experience it. And really, I guess adventuring was in 2021. And that's when, because I was starting to be around more, feminines that were healthy and wanting to change. And so that's when I started to like ask questions, and they were all like a younger generation, which was interesting because, I have a 16-year-old daughter now, and coming across younger people that didn't go through what I did, but were able to relate with me and share with me some tools. I'm like, how do you know all this? Like, and then the only thing that was different is that I've experienced the trauma, and they hadn't experienced certain things yet, but they were like this godsend. So they shared with me, beautiful experiences and knowledge, and then it just activated honestly this remembrance within me. Like I don't know how to explain it. It's like all of a sudden I just knew.
Excuse me.
Oh, you're okay.
Activating something in me too. It's
The
so
throat
great.
chakra.
Yeah, I mean,
What do you want to speak?
wow. No, it's incredible, like how, when we're open to receive, all this information just starts like pummeling us. It just sounds like everything you're describing was met with such enthusiasm, like you were really primed for this time in general, and even like this time of your transformation and discovery. I'm curious too, so that the first time you ever like set up your own Yoni steam for yourself at home, or maybe you had a practitioner do it, or maybe you're in a spa. Can you describe what that was like, and what that first moment of feeling, this part of your body activated with warm steam felt like?
It's interesting because that you say that, or ask that, should I say, because a lot, it's like I'm a big sauna person. I'm a big heat. I love baths and everything. And I actually would put herbs in my bath, like have a goddess bath and stuff. So when I had my first Yoni steam, I'm like, oh, it's kind of like my goddess bath. I just hover over it instead of being submerged in it, kind of thing. And my friend that did it at the time, the sister that I aligned with, she had created a wooden box, right? So she brought over a tin bowl. She's like, this is for you to keep. She had her own little herbs, and she's like, okay, this is how you do it. We made like a video and everything. We had so much fun. And she's like, okay, now you're gonna sit. But she taught me the Hispanic, like Mexican tradition of like old school curanderesa, where you put socks on, and then you have like a long dress on, and then you get a blanket, and you really like warm yourself up. Like you got to stay warm, and then like eat all this stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. But it was during the summer. Okay, it was like it was hot, and so we're doing this in the middle of my house, like nobody was here, and I was like, okay, I'm really hot, but it's okay. And she's like, well, you're gonna be detoxing and stuff. So sitting on top of it, it just felt very soothing, like very like I've seen other females that like get really emotional and go through some crazy transformation stuff. I didn't have that. I've experienced things like that, but from other stuff. But at this point of doing Yoni steaming, I've already done so much healing on the trauma, the emotional side, that it was more like the actual physical experience of cleansing it fully, instead of just energy healing and drinking, eating things. I went on plant-based, like raw vegan diet for a year and a half, and I was vegan, just coming out of veganism when I started doing that. Like I'm still on it, but not fully. And so it's like it was more of just this like therapeutic feeling of just like relaxation for me. And maybe because I was in the middle of my house, and like we were filming and she was there, and like and we had a rose and put like a red rose on. I just felt very connected and calm and at peace. And then when I did it by myself, the second time I did it in my room here, and I set the tone. I did it at nighttime. I put candles on. I put some tantric music on, and I like had my daughter like help me like set up a couple things. And then I actually was naked this time, and then I put socks on just out of respect, because I was like, oh, it's so hot. But I heard my friend in my head, put your socks on. So then I put the socks on. I'm naked with just like a blanket over me, and like had my daughter take some cute photos, just because I thought it was really beautiful and like just so sacred. And it was like this like that dark feminine they talk about, like in the most divine way. And it was just like more comforting. And at that point, I felt like I was in the womb again, because I put my heater on too. And like I have a little portable heater, and I put it on. And so I wanted to be like I was in like it's a mescal, which is like a sweat lodge in a sense, but it was for my Yoni. And so when I did that, it was a little uncomfortable because I had to be on my knees and like hovering over something, whereas your chair is like so comfortable and like easy, right? But so the traditional way, I was like, all right. So I did my best to be comfortable, and I did it for like 20-30 minutes, and it just was a different experience. In that one was very spiritual. Like it was more because I was by myself. I was I like created that sacred space for me. Whereas when I was out in the light, which is, oh my God, this is kind of funny, because I always tell people, just had an aha moment. I always tell people the truth is in the dark, like your power is in the dark, all that stuff, right? And everyone thinks, no, you have to be in the light. That's where, no, it's like you come to the light to share the knowledge, like we're sharing right now. And I just thought about that when I was in the broad daylight. It was so not like I didn't feel anything, but I felt so much more when I was in the darkness, in the womb space, what they would call the void, the celestial womb. And that's where the magic was. And that's where I was able to tune in, and I was getting intuitive messages. I pulled out my cards, I journaled,
Mhm.
I asked my womb questions. I was like, okay, like, you know, what is it that you want me to hear? And then I got emotional. But it was emotional in a sense of like, wow, you've done so much work and you're doing this for your lineage, and not just for yourself, but your lineage, for your daughter. And then it made me just think about the things that I allowed into my vessel. It made me think about, even though I've cleared those people and forgiven myself, it was kind of like this moment, this euphoric moment of like, now I'm really getting those energies out, like where I feel like I felt them leave, if that makes sense. And
Mhm.
then it's just been a journey since then. And it was a little challenging to do the traditional way because I just feel like it's simple, but like, yeah, it's not such a simple process. Like it gets messy sometimes and whatever. And you just have to like mentally prepare yourself to do it because of the discomfort of like how you have to position yourself. So like with yours, I can do it. I've been doing it a lot more recently, at least like every 72 hours. I've been like every 3 days, because it's just been calling me a lot lately just to do it. And a couple weeks ago, I had an intimate moment with someone that I've been talking to for a while, and it was, I have to share that it was very beautiful. I had no pains, and I've been celibate. I broke it 2 years ago with someone, and I just chose, and it was not in alignment, and it was like not, it was nothing. I was like, this doesn't count. And then, but this time, I think I was like, yeah, this time it was very special, and it was very sacred, and it was very heartfelt, and I could feel the activations, but I can feel, most importantly, like so confident in my womb, like where before in the past, and this might be a little like out there, but it's the truth, you know, like with my ex-partner of 6 years, like I would be really self-conscious about down there because at the time he was being unfaithful. And so, not knowing how energy fully worked, you know, things would happen, come in, and then I'd be like, what's going on down here? And I'd get like yeast infections, or I'd get like some kind of, you know, vaginal thing going on. And I would be like, what the fuck is wrong with me? And then he would always blame me and say something was wrong. And then I tried my diet stuff. But then when I started learning about energy, it was like, even though he was aesthetically clean, his energy wasn't clean. And it was literally my body telling me to stop. So when I was in pain, stop doing this, listen to, like, this is not good for you, you know. And but then that's when, you know, you medicate yourself and you're like, oh, I'm fine, this is good. But it's fake, it's false love, it's lust, it's just sex. It's not even like, it's like the epitome of what society calls, you know, love, and it's not. And so this time it was like, you know, for me, because I love myself so much, I felt the love in it. And I'm not saying like me and this guy are like in love, but it's just like the love was there, and it was respected, and like it was such a beautiful experience. And I was like, I know it's because like I've been doing the work, but also like because of your Yoni steamer that has like the red light therapy, that really, I feel like, I know it helps with like tightness and everything, all that stuff, to make it feel like and look really like aesthetically good and like feel good. But I feel like from the red light though, in general, it's like something about this power, like a power of like the just the passion. Like it brought back my passion, I guess you can say, like the red, like the passion, the grounding, the security, and just like owning being a freaking woman, and not caring, and being in my heart, not in my head, and worry about like performing and stuff. It was like literally just tuning in. So my experience was very tantric. I know that was a little long, but yeah.
No, I love that too. And I think it does feel like a direct reflection of the work you put into making rituals for your body, again, that are just with yourself, you know, in your own space, on your own time, being able to sink into that darkness and feel safe and free. Cause that can be a really scary place, or a place, you know, maybe that has like tensed up and recoiled and rejected over time because it's had so many bad experiences where you know, you were open to receive, but it wasn't really met with the right energy, as you're putting it, but with, you know, some kind of response that was unloving. And so I think like the more we can create these rituals of honoring ourselves, of our story, where we've been, and just remembering that like we're safe and we're whole, like in our own bodies, without needing anything from anyone else, really. And I think like embodying that knowing really helps in the way we're able to relate to others then, because it's not so easily like taken away from us by when we're in a relationship. If we're like in right relationship with ourselves. And so it does feel like this practice of, doing it when you're called to, whatever interval you feel makes the most sense for you. It's just strengthening that bond between you and your body and your story. So I think it's like really beautiful then to be able to like have sexual relationships with others where you're just so solid in that knowing. It makes such a huge difference. And sometimes, it takes practice. It's not like something that just happens. And my hope with this tool is like it just makes that practice more accessible to more people, where it's like I really honor the traditional ways of like the bajos from the Mexican tradition, or in Indonesian culture, it's still very much practiced especially for postpartum recovery. But it's really nice to kind of like receive these ancient technologies of working with with really basic elements that we all have access to be able to meet the modern world, in a more solid place. So it's not easy to do, but I'm just grateful that we're all kind of like returning to these methods of really deeply knowing ourselves. So I'm really glad you found me, because I remember, I think you reached out to me on Instagram. You're like, what is this?
Yeah.
We need to have this. Like, what is it?
I was drawn to you. I was like, I think like I was looking up like I was doing a womb healing course or workshop, and I had to go, the whole social media thing, hashtag, go find people and pull people in. And so I was like doing something, and I came across you had like a convention you were at or some kind of event, and I was like, wait, what? And I was just like, what is this? And I started asking questions, and then I don't even remember how it transpired. I think we just talked, and then just boom, we were like instantly connected. Like, oh, after I do this, like we'll connect. And then we had a call, and then here we are. And I got a Yoni steamer, and like just everything.
So in now like having this seat, so you're saying you steam like every 3 days or so. Is it at all related to like around your menstrual cycle? Or I know you're like super into astrology and the lunar cycle as well. So I'm just curious if you've noticed any differences like in when and how it relates to your own inner cycle.
Okay, so maybe you can help me with this. Okay, if you have education on, because I've been, it's new for me, so I love that you asked this. So first, I want to add really super quick, because something came up to mention when we're talking about the partnerships. When I had a really interesting experience when I went sober, and I was still in that toxic relationship for 2 months before I left him. I used to get really tired after when I would have sex, and so let's say sober sex, right? Like he would always want to go to the gym, and I would be like, and he would want to do that before, and I was like, let's do it after, because it drains me. Well, literally, I felt why it drained me. I can feel him taking my energy, literally, and I freaked out, and I told him like, whoa, and I had explained it, and he thought I was crazy. Now I don't know if he was conscious of what he was doing or what, but he was like that energy vampire, right? So I had that experience one time. Then when I broke my it was actually like 6.5 years, I think. No, 5.5 years, almost 6 years that I did my celibacy. I think, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on that. Anyways, and so with that person, I knew this person for a few years, and I was like, oh, I just thought whatever, and I gave him a cleansing and stuff like that, because he wasn't the most, he was a little bit of an F boy, but it is what it is. He was a friend of mine, and I was like, I'm going to clear you. You're the perfect person. I'm going to experiment. I just felt called to experiment, right? So I did that, and I cleared the energy, but I was very guarded, but also because of like, I know his experience, and then I just wanted to make sure I wasn't bringing in. So, but in general, we weren't aligned. It was just like, there was no love in it. There was nothing, but I could feel like this guy's heart wanting to open, but then closing. And then like, when I felt that energy, I'm like, oh, look, we can actually do this. And like, doesn't mean I'm in love with you. It just, it's just a frequency. And so, but then it ended up just being really weird. Like my body was just closed off to him. Like it just didn't feel right. Right. So then, I remember the guys always want to take it the wrong way. And I'm like, no, it's not that. It's just, we're not compatible. Like, it's great. Like, you know, like whatever. So then this time, like I had said, so before I felt the energy leave, this one I felt super closed off. Like I was just tuning in to seeing these different things. And this one, it was like I was a fucking flower. Like, just like, take me. I don't even know how to explain it. But it's because I felt safe in this person's presence and secure. And if anything, I think that this person's really coming into their heart. So the energy that I bring, I think, can be a little overwhelming because of that, like, sacred sexuality that's just like, it's ready. So it can be a lot. So I'm like, oh darn. But you know, but I feel like from doing the Yoni steaming and stuff too, it really enhanced that power of just like owning it, right? So then going back to your question, I actually with the Yoni steaming, what I've started to realize that obviously is not when you're on your moon cycle, right? I did it. I just ended my last cycle almost 2 weeks ago, and I'm a full moon bleeder, and so I had done it, I think the day before I started my moon. Like I felt it. I felt very bloated. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to do it. And I noticed that it kind of like helps reduce the bloating. And I think it's the infrared light that also reduces the inflammation, right? So then I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Then I had my moon cycle, right? And then it was like after I ended, I was guided to do it because I was also intimate, you know, so I just wanted to make sure like there are no babies going in there. I set the intention. I mean, I don't think I have the right herbs for that, for a contraceptive of that sort. However, I set the intention just to make sure. And then I just felt guided for like 2 or 3 days in a row to do it, just to make sure that I wasn't taking on anyone's energy. Not that this person was bad, but, you know, like I've really learned on my shamanic path of healing that, you know, no matter if you love that person or not, you want to have your energy and they have theirs, and whatever's powerful and abundant, it will naturally happen. But anything lower than that, you know, we don't want that, you know. And I've done a lot of work, and he's still new on this journey, so I don't think he has a huge track record, but I also don't think he knows how to clear that area, you know, the right way. And I know my energy probably just took on a whole new world for him. But so with that experience, I did cleansing, and I'm actually guided to do one today. And I think because like when I pulled my muscle, like kind of my groin today, which was really random at the gym, and then it's like kind of slowing me down to go connect, to ground myself. And then I was wondering if I do the Yoni steaming, if it's going to help that area, whatever, it's on the feminine side. So maybe something's being cleared. And the magical thing too, I want to share is that with this whole Yoni steaming thing, I actually just came in contact with my birth mother that I call my womb donor, that I don't have a relationship with, but I've been guided over the past few months to connect with her. And I've always known that I will probably eventually one day be the one that's going to like somehow lead something powerful, but I wasn't ready. And God, you know, was pretty much like, it's time, your ancestors. And I reached out to her, and now we've been like, because I'm getting answers, because her background, unfortunately, there's a lot of sexual trauma and rape and stuff from like, you know, her own father. And so it makes sense on why she turned out the way she did. And so I have this like empathy for her. And I was like, now I understand without what anyone says. And I feel like from the Yoni steaming most recently, and from my intimate moment, all these things were coming in. It would like brought in this like this abundance for me. Like, you know, when they say when you have intimacy, if it's heartfelt and intentional, it's going to bring in, you know, more great things. And it was like, it opened up this portal for me to like receive all these blessings. And one of them happens to be reconnecting to get the answers from my lineage, instead of assuming or asking people that just have a negative experience with her, actually getting to the root. And that's where the water your roots is. Because I know, I've been told, like, I've already knew that I'm the chosen warrioress, should I say, for my lineage. But now it's like, I'm now able to go back in, and I'm going to re-water all the roots that got a little dehydrated along the way. And the person who needs it most is my birth mom.
Wow. So you've never met her before?
No, I've met her. But we just felt like she was very toxic. So I haven't had a close relationship with her since I was 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing how when we're doing this type of work, when we're ready, all of these opportunities present themselves to heal well beyond our own selves. And I know like you have a daughter as well. So like that's like means more to just not just for your own being and your own story, but the story that's like being passed forward into the future.
Mm-hmm. And I want her to try it, but she's like, no, I'm not ready. I'm like, come on, just do it. It's not scary. It's weird, Mom. That's just so
I know. We're working on making it less weird.
Yes, there you go.
Good. Yeah, I mean, it's just like it has so many benefits, especially like around sexual trauma, what you were mentioning. And like you were mentioning all these different times. Like I agree that I mean, I feel most called to right before my cycle, especially people that have heavy cycles or difficult cycles. It can really help to warm up the uterus and all the surrounding tissues, the vaginal canal, like start to thin the mucus and the fluids. Because a lot of times, like cramping is really just stagnation in the uterus. It's working to kind of break things up so that we can shed the lining. So steam, that intuition to steam the day before, the few days before, to reduce bloating, like reduce inflammation, but also just to like warm up the womb for the work that it's about to do over the next like 3 or 4 days. And then same like right after the cycle ends, it's another way to help kind of cleanse and reset, or even just like honor the work that was just completed. So I do feel like around those two times seem to be like intuitively what most are drawn to. But then there could be like a myriad of other reasons. And I think with a seat like this, you can really set the temperature and kind of do a more mild setup if you're not wanting to have that like extreme I mean, it's never very extreme. In general, it's a very gentle
Yeah.
practice, but you can set the heat level so that you're not necessarily like really I don't know, opening in that level of like a more intense heat, that you can set it at 90 degrees, or just even using the infrared light, which doesn't heat up the ambient temperature. It's really just more of a way to like penetrate the skin on a cellular level and start to help that regeneration of mitochondria, like the motors of our cells.
Keep
So
it
it's
nice and
really,
tight.
yeah, it's like a great kind of reset or refresh.
I love that.
Yes. So are there any other, because I know like setting up your scene or kind of creating ritual is a big part of what you do, with
Mhm.
clients and with yourself too. So with Yoni steaming, what are some other parts of the ritual in terms of like the setup, or even while you're steaming, what sort of things do you get up to?
Yeah, so when I first started, I mean, every now and then I'll get in the spirit of like wanting to go like the full, spiritual experience of like I'll put my oils on, I'll pull out my journal, do my cards, I'll make ceremonial cacao or a really good herbal tea to drink. Like I'll really tune in. And then sometimes I'm just like, I just want to relax and I'm just going to do the steam and I'm just gonna chill and let it come out and just let myself be present. And what I love to do though is like what's really important for me is obviously setting the tone of the mood of the room. So like putting incense in, like I recently got dragon's blood, and or you can smudge with sage or whatever, and then just putting candles. Like I feel like the best time is at nighttime. And then like so in my room I have like some drapes behind me that are like bamboo that can make it really dark in here. So I'm gonna do like a steam like after I'm gonna take a shower. I like to shower first too, so that my body is super clean, and then I'm going in and doing that instead of doing the opposite. Because I remember one time I did it, the first couple times I did it, it was just like, oh, I'm gonna do it right now. But then I was like, this doesn't seem right. I feel like I need to shower first, clear my body, get off anything, bacteria wise, so to speak, germs, and then energetically be clean, and then open that portal up so that I can fully receive it. And then if I feel like I'm tired after or whatever, I can, just go to sleep clean. And what I did notice, actually with your Yoni steamer, it actually, this is going to sound so silly to some people, but it's a real thing. It actually stimulates me. It kind of gives me like a sense of arousal. And so I was like, I'm like, I wonder if like next time like I'm intimate, if I know that I'm going to be intimate, if I'm like, okay, this guy is going to come over, we're going to hang out. I know that it's probably going to go there. The guy that I'm dating, not saying like just random person, but, and if I were to do the Yoni steam and then, even just for like 15 minutes and prior, of like, it would really enhance everything. Cause I did experiment with myself. Okay. I did the Yoni steam, and then I gave myself some self-love because I was curious, because I was like, it just came in and I was like, oh wow. And it really, let me tell you, sister, and sisters that are watching, it literally gave me the climax of a lifetime. I'm not even a joke. Like, it was like, I by myself, okay? Like, the most orgasmic experience because of all the blood flow that's already there, and then the openness. It was like my body, like I said earlier, was just this flower that just blossomed, and the nectar was just free. Like, it was crazy. I was like, okay, this is like, I was like, that was some manifestation, freaking orgasmic moments right there. But it was really cool. So it made me think, like, if we use this in a sacred, ritual, ceremonial way, not to abuse it, anyone, but utilize that in a sense. And then if you, as a woman, because we are the light for the men, right? We're the spiritual protectors. We're here to open up their hearts and let them come back into that safe space. So if we're more conscious of doing that, and it's gonna be warmer down there in a positive way, right? It's gonna, like, I feel like that will be a full-on like ceremony journey with them, or maybe even with your partner, to show them like what you're doing, and they get to see it and then experience it right after. But it's kind of like, it's, to me personally, it's something I'm definitely going to experiment with in my future. But from just my own personal experience by myself, it was beautiful. And it was, I feel like if you were to be more intentional with like what you're going to create, so you have your vision when you do climax, that's the sex magic, the manifestation, the frequency that you become in your body, and then you can carry that out and create your life. We're the creators as women. We birth souls into this world. Like, who can do that? That's why men want to be women. Just saying. That's why they try to shut this up, and we're like, fuck you, not anymore.
Yeah, it's pretty miraculous for sure. And so the more we can get to know that part of our body, like in our own being first and foremost, and feel like so well versed in all of the nooks and crannies, and even like, because it is so activating and it does like increase the blood flow and increase circulation, that you can get like so much sensation in parts of your entire pelvic bowl that you might not have been that like aware of. It's all so nuanced. And I feel like just with anything in life, there's like so many layers of pieces to be conscious of. So it's just such a great meditative practice, whether it's like sexual arousal or just even like sensation, pure noticing of sensation. That is like a lot of growth, I think, especially for so many women that may, because of like a series of experiences, have lost that ability. So it's like that step one, steaming can be just such an amazing tool for. And yeah, you're right. Like where that can take us or where that leads us is kind of like infinite possibility.
No, it was powerful. That everything you said, yes.
So what would you say to women that are hesitant to steam, or like, oh, I don't do that, it's dangerous, or it's unhealthy, or you could burn yourself, or it's bad for your pH, or there's a lot of, I think, fear around it, and it still feels like this wacky thing to do?
Well, that's a great question too. How I look at things is so funny, because on my path, I've had people like pretty much ridicule me in this lifetime as a witch and stuff. And like, I have my cup says witches brew, all these things based off, their religious beliefs or whatever, right? And I used to tell people then, like when they would be like, oh, you smudge sage, like, oh, that's not good, that's bad, right? I said, do you drink tea? And they're like, yeah. Do you drink herbal tea? Yeah. Well, then guess what? You're just as dark as I am if that's the case, because what's the difference? You're drinking it, you're smudging it, right? Like, you're burning it. It's the same concept. Do you light a candle? Yeah, so do I. Oh, well, what's your intention? To smell good in the house? Light up. So I would always give them some kind of like perspective in a very simple way, and people would get really triggered by it, right? And I'd think, well, it's just the truth. It's just your intention. What's your intention in doing this, right? And with the yoni steaming, I can understand people's fears because of like the heat. Like, my daughter's more like, I don't know. Like, she's like, I don't know. That just seems weird, because it's something foreign in this lifetime that hasn't been cultivated at a young age. So like, now that she's been brought into it, and if I were to have future children, they're definitely going to know that. So they won't be afraid of it. They'll be more open to it, right? And so she's like on the borderline, because she's been on the journey with me when I started to get into it. So it wasn't like we were born and, hey, this is what we do as women, right? We have a red tent outside to go bleed in the earth. Like, I would love that, as a goal of mine to have. But it's like, I feel that the reason why people get scared is because, just like anything, your power, like I was saying earlier, lies in the dark. And I'm not saying evil, okay? Evil and darkness are two different things, okay? They can align together, but evil is someone who has ill intentions and is purposely trying to hurt, harm, or injure you, okay? And like doing things that are not okay. But darkness is our shadows. Our shadows are our wounds, our heartache, our insecurities, our fears, anything on a scarcity level that you're afraid to overcome or face. And a lot of people hold a lot of trauma. As women, we hold it in our hips, and we hold it in our womb, we hold it in this whole midsection right here, right? And what it's doing is that if you really want to achieve fulfillment in your life, and you really want to come into the self-love mastery, and you really want to find that one true love, you have to be your own lover first, right? So you have to learn to allow yourself to feel and not be afraid of, you know, all of these projections of other people that are just afraid of their own power. And the more you can lean into that fear and explore it, I actually feel you're going to really de-blossom yourself to coming into your true power, the power that people were trying to hide from you because they were told to hide. And it's just been passed down, you know, telephone trauma of like bullshit pretty much. So it's like when you lean into the Yoni steaming, lean into that fear with the intention to be open to receive what it's here to show you, whether you get emotional through it. I think just a lot of people are afraid of feeling pain again. And it's not even just the steam of they may think it's the steam of the water, but really it's the emotional trauma that may come up that they're afraid of. And you know, the only way out is through, and the only way we can heal as women and really be empowered is if we face it. So I feel the only reason why people are afraid of it on a conscious level, or even unconscious, should I say, is because you're afraid of learning what could possibly be good for you, because we're so programmed. Here's a pill for that, there's that. I just say try it, test the waters, water your roots in that area, right? And really feel that beautiful moment to yourself, and know that this is earth. We are like, it's healing, it's holistic. And I don't know, it's just something you have to just, it's not even about, oh, I want to do it or I don't. It's a matter of just look at it as like you're healing your lineage through you. If you have mommy challenges or daddy, whatever it is, you are helping them. Like if you can't speak to them, you're helping them. Like I saw all the work that I've been doing. Now I'm able to have a conversation with my mother. Don't know where it's going to go, but at this point, I'm enjoying it because I'm learning from her. I'm learning her story. I'm hearing her without a defense mechanism. And Yoni steaming has been a part of that journey and healing my womb, healing my relationship with myself and other women, including my mother. And I just feel that it's really important that we step into that power and start to be accountable. Stop playing the victim. You're not a victim. Shit happens. I get it. But you know what? You're here to be the change. I don't know. That's all I can say.
No, it's beautiful. And it's like we do have all these tools at our disposal. And I guess that could be the scary part, is like there isn't really an excuse. It's just we're getting in our own way. You mentioned too, like while you're steaming and you're kind of in this meditative state, or even like pleasurable, stimulated state, that it can also be like a time, to kind of dive into the darkness and more like the intuitive downloads that you're receiving. Do you find like during a steaming session for like 20 or 30 minutes that you get these ideas or sparks of like creative, push of what your next step should be, like reaching out to your mother, or like you just new projects, new ideas, new intuitive downloads? I'm just curious if that seems like part of the process.
Absolutely. I even have like a little journal that I have actually right here, and it's called my spirit journal. And with this, I will write to myself, to God, to my Yoni, like whatever I'm going through. And if there's any answers that you need clarity on, or any questions, that you need answers and clarity on, then I highly recommend, like, because women, we are the most intuitive, we are oracles. And it's not only helping us to clear the lower chakras, right, and coming up, it's helping us to be that divine channel, to align fully. And having this practice, whether you want to call it spiritual or not, you can just be like, oh, it's just part of my healthy regimen, or it's part of my spiritual practice. Like, it's the same thing. I really feel strongly that that this will help you bring back your remembrance, your clairvoyance, your intuition, your trust in yourself, and that safety that we all are looking for without. It's about really bringing it back into yourself. And as we do that, I feel like so many more codes of, like infinite abundance, as we were saying, will open up. And it's just really up to you, however you want to do it. Like it is going to bring a channel of empowerment. It's going to bring that channel of intuitiveness, this knowing. You may get messages right then and there, or you might just have a moment where you're just like really relaxed and not so much chatter. I put on like music and stuff sometimes. And then later on during the integration, because you're just doing the moment, it's the integration for the next 72 hours where you got to stay hydrated, eat really clean, be really mindful of like the synchronicities and the things that are going on, because that's where the true healing is happening.
So beautiful. Thank you for everything you're sharing. Is there anything else before we kind of wrap up here that you'd love to share or that you're feeling?
So I was just guided to share with you. So at the very end, this is really important. And they teach us in, the ancestral ways or the ancient ways of doing the Yoni. So after you have the little cute pot in there, I let it cool off overnight and I put it on my altar. I have a spiritual altar over here. And then what I ended up doing is giving it back to earth. And I actually have a plant. You want to see how funny this plant looks right now? So I have a succulent plant in my room that was dying, that actually had outside, and it was in the sun because they're supposed to be in the sun. I put it in here, and every time I do a Yoni steam, you can actually see all the herbs. I've been giving it back to my plant, as long as it's not too much, but you can put it back to earth and give it like regenerate it. But I've been putting in, look at how my plant looks.
Oh my, happy guy.
Yeah, and it's growing a little one right here, and there's like a little spider in there or something. But the interesting
wow, it looks like a starburst.
That's what I'm saying. It blossomed, and
yeah.
it was dying, and it was closed, and it was just like, it just looked so sad. And then you could see that I've been putting still the herbs in there with my crystal, and it's like, I mean, it's definitely this is my Yoni. I don't know.
I do the exact same thing. It's so fun. I have a little money tree that I got when it was like a little teeny sprout at a dollar store, ironically, in Brooklyn. And it's grown over the years and it has a big pot now, but that's like the same plant I've been giving my steam leftovers to after every session. But yeah, it kind of makes it, I have a seat next to me right now, but the little cup makes it so much easier to share with all of your plant friends.
Oh my God, so much easier. And like that one, I think this one's good for right now because it's still moist in there, like my last one. So like today when I do, I'll probably take it outside. Maybe I'll go back to where I was earlier, the lands, and just say thank you. Like it was so funny when I went hiking up this mountain today, or the canyon. I just went pee, and then like when you go up, and I was drinking coffee, but I was like, I literally just used the restroom before I went up there, so I should be fine. I get up there and I'm like, I have to pee. I'm like, dang it. So I was like, and then something was like, you're giving back to the earth because you're gonna have your moment. So I was like, oh, there's no one up here. So I pop a squat really quick. I kid you not, because it's by this like wildlife sanctuary. It's part of it, but it's like in the morning, no one's there, or the rising. I turn around, there's a freaking camera. I was like, where did that come from? That's never been there. I was like, well, they got a good show of my booty. I was like, whatever. But it was funny. I was like, maybe my essence would be too bright that it didn't show anything. But I was like, well, someone got a good little papa squat.
Yes, you're on camera. We're always
right. I was just like, whatever. But it was giving back to earth. That's what my whole point was. It was giving back to earth through, my waters. And I mean, it's sacred. You're sacred, and I'm just so grateful for you for inventing this and for bringing this love into my life, because like this is what we all need.
Yeah,
like yours is the best. Yes, thank you.
It's been a long journey, so to be at this point where like it's physically out here and being used, and people are really like finding all these different ways to just feel that depth of connection is like such a gift for me too. So I'm really grateful to be in communication with you as you deepen your practice. And I love witnessing, everything that you're sharing. Speaking of which, how do people that are viewing follow you or reach out if they want to get in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram. I have all the social media platforms, but the one I'm most active on is Instagram. It's Master Jacklyn Nicolle, just like my headline here. And then I have a website that's masterjacklynnicolle.com. I'm going through some revisions of that. So right now it's still there, but if it seems like it's like weird right now, it's because I'm literally, my life has been shifting. I'm like known as a creative healer. So like more creative of my content stuff's coming in as a service now. So I'm like going to rebrand myself a little bit more. But yeah, that's where they find me. I do high performance coaching, not only for business, but also for personal development, spiritual self too. And I pretty much help you to just come back and master your excellence. And then I travel Orange County, California right now, and eventually the states and the globe, doing my drum medicine with a brother of mine named Kyle Lamb. He does sound healings and he's amazing. If you go to KyleLambSoundHealing.com, you can see where we're at and which shows I'm a part of, events. And that's where you can get your attunements. And then everything else, you can just connect with me and, you know, we'll go from there and I can help you. But I'll be having in 2024 workshops and some women's circles. And I have a lot more things that I kind of put on the back burner to get my life ahead, to build that strong foundation, because I was kind of like everywhere, you know, in the cloud for a moment. And I had to bring it all into this embodiment in this earthly realm. But it's part of the journey, you know, like I'm a jack of all trades, but I had to learn to master myself. And I came into my mastery last year, 7 solid years of really mastering myself in that love. And now, you know, I'm going to be 41 tomorrow, but it's like I had to embody the 40th of being this woman. Now I'm ready to now share and guide and educate everyone as we are on this call, you know, or this podcast, to better themselves, because I have a little bit more experience with the womb healing, if that makes sense.
Yes. Thank you for all your wisdom and everything you're offering. I look forward to seeing more of it and staying connected. So thanks, Jacklyn.
You're welcome. Thank you, Jessica. We'll be in touch in person in 2024 for sure.
Yes.
So come see us. Peace and love.